What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Uberkooledgarage. On this week's episode, we're gonna continue with the bug. I'm super sorry it's taken so long to get this video out. Work has been absolutely insane. I've been out of town for a long time. So I've been bouncing back and forth quite a bit. So I've only been able to work on the bug just a little bit. So this video is it's been 2 or 3 weeks of little work on it. I am actually on the injured list. As you can see, I have a couple stitches in my finger. Sent a piece of stainless through my finger, so that was no fun. I've been down for a couple days for that. But still continued to work. You'll see in the last couple clips the stitches and the actual with it all wrapped up and stuff like that. I noticed that I also have quite a bit of new subscribers, so welcome guys to the channel. Also have Instagram has been absolutely insane lately, so if you're coming from Instagram, thank you guys. It's quite awesome. Everything's starting to come around. Everybody's starting to find the channel and starting to really like the build. So we are going to get into the bug. We're going to get it close to the point of starting. Starting this car will probably be next episode. So I'm going to push really hard to do that. That way it kind of motivates me and pushes myself to finish the rest of this car. With the car running and not being able to drive it, it's going to drive me insane. So I want to get this thing fired up. That way it really motivates me to finish the rest of the small stuff that I need to do. But everything's starting to come together. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you are new to the channel. So hope you guys enjoy this one. We'll see you guys at the end. Well, I haven't updated in quite a while, but I got some parts in the mail today. So I have a 4-inch 45-degree piece of pipe, 4-inch coupler, 4-inch T-bolt clamps. I got a ton of AN fittings, turbo drain, and there's a couple other bits and pieces in there. And also got 5 feet of 10 AN steel braided hose. So this stuff here will do all of the oil lines. The only thing that I need now is one more fitting for the turbo drain and the fittings for the turbo feed. This massive pipe here is going to come off of the turbo and kind of kick down there. So that'll sit down there. That'll put the air filter where it needs to be. I'm probably going to have to trim this up a little bit to get it exactly where it needs to be. But you can kind of get the gist there. That puts it right at the scoop on the lower section of the rear quarter panel. So that's pretty cool. As you can see, the bug is hanging from the rafters. I have needed to get the chassis out of the way, and I don't really have room at the moment. So, hung the body from the rafters. Now I can get to all of the chassis stuff that I need. I have a couple more things to do on the motor itself. Get pipes ran and stuff like that where it needs to be. Get a couple tabs in there. And then the motor will come out. I'll clean the motor, get it painted, get everything all cleaned, ready to go. I will run the rest of my fuel lines and get the brake lines in there, get all that stuff done. Maybe I'll paint the back half of the chassis, get that all in primer. And then once all of that is painted and good to go, then we'll go ahead, put the motor in, plumb up all the lines, and get the electrical hooked up to the motor and try and fire it. So I'm gonna try really hard to get it running in the next probably 2 weeks. Get this thing fired up on the chassis, and then from there that'll definitely motivate me more to finish up the suspension, the floor pans, the seat mounts, the harnesses, get all of that stuff situated, and then we'll paint probably the rest of the chassis and drop the body down, start cleaning up a lot of this. I'm going to replace this whole section of heater channel. I'm going to fix the entire wheel arch, and there's a couple other body modifications in there. You can see that the bottom of the A-pillar is all rotted out, so I'll cut that out, replace all of that stuff, get all that stuff situated. I still have the other hood mount on the passenger side to do, so we'll clean up the chassis. We'll get the chassis going first, then we'll clean up the body, get it ready for Buggerama, and then we should be rolling around pretty good. I've also been working on getting the coolant line set up. So you can see it comes out here, comes around. You can see that's kinked a little bit, so I have to modify my section here on both sides. That way I can slide the rubber boot up in there onto the pipe, get a clamp on there, and then after that we should be looking pretty good. So I'm really gonna start jamming on this thing, getting it all situated and ready to go. I went ahead and made up all the oil lines. Figured there are thousands of videos on YouTube about making AN lines, but here's basically the whole system. The rest of the sandwich plate is still on the motor. It's all positioned and sealed up, so I don't want to take it off. But here's everything that I need to get the oil lines done. The only other oil lines that I have on the car are turbo feed and my turbo drain fitting. So I'll get that stuff installed probably next week. I have that stuff on order, so hopefully they come in next week and I can finish it. But got the oil cooler, the thermostat for the oil cooler, the oil filter relocation, and all the hoses and fittings to finish this off. So I need to go through and throw some Teflon on all these, get them all tightened down, and then we'll put it into the car, make sure it all still fits where it needs to, and then we will start moving on to more stuff. Another couple things that I did off camera was heat wrapped that section of the coolant pipe. That way it keeps it cool in the engine compartment. I did trim this 4-inch inlet pipe, so the filter should sit roughly in that location. I might cut this shorter here to bring the pipe up. The scoop sits basically right here on the car, and then there is a shield that shields this here, keeps it away from the coolant pipe. But I went ahead and wrapped that as well, and let's see, I wrapped this top piece up here, so all that's all wrapped, ready to go. Everything's turning out super good, so we will slap together all those oil lines, put them in the car, and I'll show you guys how they all go. Oh, got the oil lines in. So sandwich plates down in the original oil spot. So it does a 135 degree bend up, loops around, goes into the oil filter. This line looks like it's close to the header, but it's not. I can stick my fingers in between there, and that's one of the reasons why I have the headers wrapped. So it comes out of here, goes into the oil filter over here, comes out of the oil filter down and into the thermostat. And the thermostat will actually bypass and go back to the original oil filter, goes back into the motor. So once it gets to, I believe it's 175, I'll have to look at my paperwork, and I'll put it somewhere on the screen what it actually does. But then from there, it goes out to the oil cooler, and then from the inner oil cooler back in, and then that'll shoot into the block. So super nice, clean, very simple. So the oil cooler, I think what I'm gonna do is it's gonna mount in the body, but for now I think I'm probably just going to build a bracket that comes up to here, and then it'll have a hose clamp and then maybe one on the bottom just to hold it right where it's at. That'll eventually get a fan on it, and then it'll be ducted into the body, so then the side scoops into the oil cooler. And then on the other side with the fan, it'll actually be ducted down and dump underneath the body, under the flat bottom that I'm building. So there'll be an air outlet underneath that pushes all the hot air, so it'll come in and then drop down underneath and shoot out of the back of the car. That way it doesn't put 180, 200 degree air into the engine compartment. So, but for now, I'll just build a bracket that goes from there to there, and then one from there to the bottom of the chassis. That way it stays right there. Now we're going to start moving on to a couple other little things that I have. So the oiling system's basically done. And then, like I said in the previous part, the oil feed and the oil drain are the last thing on the oil list. And then after that, I have to plug in some wires, run my fuel lines through the fuel pump and filters, and tag in the fuel cell. Okay, so ordered some more stainless steel brake lines. Ran out of the other stuff. I didn't take into account that the clutch line goes all the way through the car. So ordered that. I also ordered some fittings. These are deep fittings for the hydraulic e-brake, the brake bias, and the line lock. So ordered those. I also ordered soft line for the hydraulic clutch. So that's a factory thing that will get tied into this line, which I'll cut. I was originally just going to loop this up and dump it directly into it, but didn't like that idea. This will give some flex. I'll end up making a tab that holds it somewhere out here. That way I have a little bit of flex, even though the motor is solidly mounted in the car. I would rather have some flex on some of that stuff. Another thing that I ordered is the fitting for the turbo drain. So that dumps into the factory location. The motor is absolutely filthy. So here, pretty quick, I'm going to pull the motor, pull the trans, clean everything off, repaint everything, get it all nice and pretty. The intake manifold will come off, that'll get painted. The turbo will come off, that'll get painted and cleaned up. On order, it should be here hopefully today. I have turbo feed stuff. You guys saw all the oil lines, so those are AN. The turbo feed will be AN. I have mounted the bulkhead fittings for the fuel. You can see that this one's a hard line. This one's a 10 AN coming off the fuel cell that'll go to the first fuel pump or first fuel filter, and then go 10 AN into the fuel pump, and then from there everything is 8 AN. I ordered all of those fittings. Those should be coming with the AN fittings for the turbo feed. So you can see here that I got the return line coming around up and into the fuel tank. I really don't like the way that turned out. So this will probably just be a first start temporary solution. I will order an braided hose that comes down and around and goes into that. That way it cleans it up, makes it nice. This will come off as a 90 and then drop down, loop around, and then probably another 90 into the fitting. So all of this stuff is looking pretty good. Another cool thing that I did that I really liked, also cut that, the intake, cut that, got it where it needs to be. Should be roughly in the right location. If it isn't, then I will cut it here and probably put in a pie piece and take it to somebody or have somebody weld it up for me, because that's aluminum. I don't have the stuff to weld aluminum at the moment. So might be a pie piece or two right here into this to get this to clock that way just a hair. The e-brake was one thing that was really troubling. I was originally going to put it into this center console area where it comes out of the center console and up. Set it in there, really didn't like the way that it looked. So I made a bracket off of this, and then the hydraulic e-brake will sit here. All right, got my other delivery today. They said it wasn't going to be delivered until Tuesday, but got all of my fuel fittings. So here's my 10 AN to the first fuel pump, or first fuel filter. And then I have 8 AN for that. And then it'll go into the next 8 AN. It'll go something like this. Go like that. And then I have another 180 degree. The next fuel filter will go in here. This one will go into that. And then this one will come out and go into the hard lines. So all of that worked out really, really nice. It should be a nice, clean, simple thing there. I have all the 8 AN hoses that go to that, and then this is my turbo feed. So 4 AN, I got a foot of hose. I'll probably end up cutting it down because it's not quite that long. And then I got a straight and a 90. And then I also ordered 20 feet of vacuum line. I do need one to run up to the front of the car for the ECU. And then also have to run the wastegate and the blow-off valve and all of that stuff. So that should be enough to do all of that. The only thing that it looks like I am missing is I'm missing a 90 degree 8 AN that'll tag into one of my bulkhead fittings here. So I will look and see about that. If I forgot to order it, then I will order 3 and redo the return line. So we'll get all this together and see where we're at. Went ahead and made all of the AN lines. So this one here will go into the fuel cell. Comes down into the first filter as a 10 AN. Then loops around, goes through this one, which is 8 AN, into the fuel pump. And then from the fuel pump, 8 AN again, runs into this filter. And then this one will tag into the hard lines that run through the car. As you can see, I do not have a fitting on here. Ended up forgetting to order it. So I went ahead and ordered 3 more 90-degree AN fittings and 4 more feet of AN hose. That way I can make the return, because in the last clip I told you that I didn't like the return that I made. I also got more stainless steel brake line. I thought the original 20 feet was going to be enough. It definitely was not. So now I'm going to go ahead and start building out the brake lines, finish off the clutch line, and put some fluid in it, make sure that everything kind of holds for the clutch. I don't have the rest of the stuff to do the brakes yet. I still need my stainless steel brake lines that go up to the caliper, and then I need front calipers as well. But once I get those in, then I can bleed the brakes and make sure I don't have any leaks, make sure everything works the way it should. So let's go ahead and start fabricating all of the brake lines and getting all that all set up. Okay, so you saw me just do the clutch line. It comes out of the bottom there, loops around, goes into a light sensor. The light sensor is actually going to hook up to the computer that I have. It'll run probably a couple different things into the computer, so that's pretty cool. It runs there, runs through the tunnel of the car, and then runs down around up into the stock Subaru flex line. So runs down into the stock flex line and into the slave cylinder. So I went ahead and bled the system. So if I go ahead and push on the clutch, I have a clutch. So it's pretty exciting. The reason I put fluid in it is I wanted to make sure that everything's going to work, make sure that this master cylinder that I have up here is big enough. The clutch pedal is very tight. But if it's too tight, then I will get a different master cylinder. But I have always ran kind of a tight clutch on all of my cars. I like everything in my cars to be very tight. The throttle pedal, the brake pedal, the clutch pedal, like all that really tight. That way I can feel the car, know exactly what it's doing. Same with steering. Steering's a very, very big one for me. I don't like any slop. If I turn the wheel at all, I want it to move. So clutch pedal's a little tight. If it's too tight, then I'll order another one, but we'll see how it goes. Next up will be brake lines, and then we should be looking pretty good on fluid systems. I have a couple more things for the radiator and a couple more water lines to run. So I have one that runs from the water pump up to where the heater core would have plugged into. So it plugs into this. I got to pull the water manifold off and plug, tap the water port that went up to the throttle body. Not going to use that. And then the turbo, the stock turbo had water to it as well. This turbo does not. So I basically loop that from there, and it loops back around and goes back into the water pump. So if I leave those lines in there just in case in the future, if I get a turbo that is water cooled, it's a very, very easy connection to make up. So I would just have to reroute some hosing. So those two and the plug, and I have this front one to make that runs up to the radiator, and then radiator system will be done as well. I can go ahead and plug all that in, fill it up with coolant, or I'm going to fill it up with water just in case I have any leaks. And after everything's said and done, I'm going to have to drain it anyway to paint the cage and get all that stuff set up. So fill that up with water and then drain it. Later on, make sure everything's good there. And basically all I have to do is plug in some wiring and we should be good. So like I said, I have the fuel fittings on the way. I also ordered shift cables. So shift cables will run all the way back. I can start building and designing my shift selector bracket back here that'll change all the gears. So I have a couple ideas for that. I have a couple pieces for that already. So cables are on order. Fuel lines are on order. After I get those things, we should be able to fire the car up. I'm going to plug in some wiring and fire her up, and then at that point I will get my butt into high gear, finish off the suspension, slide some floor pans into it, and cruise it down the street. So we are getting very close. It definitely does not look like it, but we are. So let's keep pushing along and try and get this thing rolling down the road. All right, guys, so that's all I have for you this week. Sorry it was kind of more of a talking video, not really showing. Like I said in the video, all of these AN fittings, there are thousands of videos of how they go together and stuff like that. The fittings that I use are a little bit different. They are very easy, and I have found that they are quite a bit cheaper than the other ones. I'll go ahead and link the website below. That way you guys, if you guys like these fittings, they also have multiple colors and stuff like that. So I'll link that below. I'm gonna try as hard as I can to get this thing to fire up by next week. I'm also going to try and put more videos out more often. I also have Derek's car. That video is basically done. Derek's car has given me nothing but problems, but sorting through it, starting to get everything situated. It is running and driving now, but I'm still having a couple little issues with the carburetor and stuff like that. But we'll get that one out, and I have 2 more on the books. So I'm gonna try and get those cars in the next couple weeks, and we'll continue pushing on the bug. So it's gonna get very busy and very interesting here shortly. So thank you guys for sticking around and liking all the comments and all the likes and all that. You guys are awesome. So until the next video, peace out, guys.